Can we sprint in space? So before we think about if we can sprint in space, we have to be clear about what exactly sprinting is on Earth. So when we think about sprinting on Earth, we imagine Sha'Carri Richardson or Noah Lyles flying down the track in a 100-meter sprint. But sprinting isn't just about moving your legs really fast. It's a gravity-dependent neuromuscular task that requires your body to create large ground reaction forces with very short contact time. And these ground reaction forces move through the body and allow the muscles and tendons to store and release elastic energy. What happens when there are no ground reaction forces to create this energy dynamic? We know that on Earth, there are many variables crucial to sprinting performance, but I will focus on 3. Motor unit recruitment, activation of type 2 fibers, and rapid firing rate. So what happens to these mechanisms in the absence of gravity? Okay, so starting with motor unit recruitment, in space, there is no body weight or gravitational load to elicit motor unit recruitment. So as a result, there are fewer motor units recruited. So even though the intent to run is still there, it doesn't translate into muscle action. So kind of like when you're trying to run in a dream, but your legs are so heavy and you can't move them. Similarly, for the type 2 fast twitch fibers, in the absence of gravity, there is no ground impact or elastic energy forces to activate this muscle. So the body preferentially relies on slower type 1 fibers. So it's not that your body can't use fast twitch fibers, but it doesn't have a need to. So when we think of a sprinter exploding out of the starting blocks, it's the high firing rate of the alpha motor neurons down the spinal cord to the muscles that enables this propulsive force. In space, this signal is greatly reduced because the mechanical demand is not there. The feedback mechanisms to restore neuromuscular homeostasis in microgravity are the sensors, command center, and effectors. 2 types of sensors are muscle spindles and Golgi tendon organs. The muscle spindles detect changes in muscle length and speed, but in space, the communication of the spindles gets turned down, so the body doesn't have a clear sense of where its limbs are or how fast they're moving. The Golgi tendon organs normally detect muscle forces, but in the absence of gravitational force, there is virtually nothing to detect. So in turn, the muscles don't know how strong they need to contract. The second feedback mechanism is the command center, or brain and spinal cord. On Earth, your brain already knows how heavy your body is and how hard the ground will push back. But since all those sensory inputs are gone or greatly reduced, your motor cortex has to recalibrate its output to adjust to the microgravity environment. The same theory applies to the spinal cord as well. So what does the body do with this new information? The command center signals the main effector, which is the skeletal muscle. The skeletal muscle responds by producing less force and power. It changes its activation patterns for more control and stability. And since there is no stretch shortening cycle, there is no spring-like effect that is seen in normal sprinting. So homeostasis shifts away from power towards efficiency. So we all know that when astronauts do space missions, it's never just for a couple of days. They stay on an average of 6 months. So during this time, their neuromuscular systems undergo a total recalibration to the microgravity environment. So there are no real true beneficial adaptations. Simply adapting to the environment is a feat in itself. But they do become more coordinated and muscle movements are smoother and more efficient. The maladaptations that occur over time are decreases in strength, power, and rate of force development. So if microgravity removes the load that sprinting normally depends on, the goal of exercise in space is to replace that load as much as possible. So astronauts use harness systems, elastic resistance, and flywheel devices to simulate ground reaction forces. And since true sprinting isn't possible, they emphasize high intensity, short duration exercises at near max effort and increase the frequency of training since the intensity is limited. So in space, consistency matters more than intensity. So neuromuscular homeostasis in space is not about going back to normal, but creating a new baseline that works without gravity. So if we ask the question, can we sprint in space? My answer would be, you can try, but you're not really going anywhere.